My name is Onke Ngcuka from Cape Town, South Africa, and I'm an environmental journalist with the Daily Maverick. So the overall theme of the program has been around climate justice, and I think a lot of it has been trying to center, trying to learn rather how to center our stories around climate justice, but putting human angle and human-centered stories rather around that. I think for me that's been one of the biggest key takeaways. I think that it's very important for journalists right now to be speaking about the climate crisis, particularly in South Africa, where 80% of our energy relies on the burning of coal and thus increasing our emissions, especially in comparison to other African nations. I think it's important that in telling that narrative that we speak about how coal actually affects the people that are in the small towns and cities where coal is being burnt. And we speak about those people by engaging with them also, and not just telling their stories from this long shot and from a very from a far away and removed perspective. I think also in telling those stories, it's important we highlight how their health and lives are affected, and also to link that to the climate crisis, to say that the more we burn, the more our environment is affected, the more we contribute to the climate crisis, but also the more that we're deteriorating the quality of life of the people within those spaces. I think the program for me has done a very good job in ensuring that when I speak about the climate crisis, I put humans at the center of it, because I think from previous years, stories have been around. I think even if you look at when we started speaking about the climate crisis, it went from the melting ice caps and the endangered polar bears, whereas now and then it moved from there to being about the statistics that are growing around it, but there was no stories around how humans are being affected, and I think that really removed people from being interested in the topic. For me, the program has really helped me shape climate crisis stories around humans, and I think that creates bigger interest in the story, and therefore drives people to take climate action and reduce their impact on the environment. So definitely, I think it's changed my thinking in how I report, who I report for, and who my stories are geared at. I would say that engaging with other colleagues from other countries has definitely impacted on how I think about South Africa's role within the continent in terms of climate crisis contribution. But I think also it's made me think about how we can all band together within the region to create stronger stories that will create interest, that will drive our governments to actually treat this as an emergency, because one problem that's happening in South Africa, with intense droughts, is also happening in Zimbabwe. It's also happening in, other areas, other countries in the region. So I think it's definitely helped band our voices together, and actually start thinking about how we can start telling further stories that are more rather practicing cross-border journalism. So I think that's been a really great factor of the program. I think it's important that organizations such as the Rosa Luxemburg Foundation, back young African journalists in programs such as this one. It provides, I think, the resources to tell stories that otherwise our local publications wouldn't have the means to do so. And I think that helps in bringing attention to the climate crisis in our particular countries, where the news would kind of be focused around politics, whereas now with the resources we can start to drive interest within that space, and therefore encourage further climate action. But I also think that we African journalists are very capable, very talented, and we have these skills that just linger some of the time, like I said, because of the funding. And sometimes we just need that extra push to be like, okay, this is how you can use your skills, or this is where you can use your skills, or this is how you can think differently about the capabilities that you have. And I think that this particular program has been a great tool to encourage that and bring that out in our journalists.